Nice. Welcome back to the Unreal Engine training stream. I'm your host, Alexander Pascal, and joining me today is Andrew Hurley.
Hey guys.
So, Andrew, you're here today to talk about landscapes.
Indeed I am.
All right, well, let's hop to it.
All
You've
right.
got your instructional guides there. We got some stuff up here on the main screen to show you. Clint, main screen turn on.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the introduction, Alex. Before I get started, I just wanted to say thank you to my team for all the hard work that they do, and across Epic, but specifically my team. I'll give you an intro as to what I do. I'm an engine support technician, might be under my name. And basically what we do is we communicate between users and licensed companies. We help them troubleshoot issues. So I have a good general knowledge of the engine, and I more specifically focus on rendering. And today we are going to talk about, as Alex mentioned, we're going to talk about landscapes. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we're going to get into, and then I'm just going to dive right into it. We have a lot to talk about. We might not get to it all. However, I'm going to do my best to be as specific and to the point as possible, making sure that you guys understand the concepts.
Now, you even had a whole bunch of other stuff that you wanted to cover, but it's just not going to fit all in. So we're going to have to do some follow-up streams for different things, like covering foliage specifically.
Exactly.
And getting into more advanced stuff as well.
Exactly.
But this is to just get you off with the basics. And also, don't forget, if you're watching live, we are taking your questions in chat off of Twitch. So go right ahead and throw those in, and we'll answer those at the end of the tutorial.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to try and answer any questions you guys have. If that's actually part of my job, is if I can't find the answer myself or I don't know it, I will find someone who does know the answer, and we'll get you the best answer we can possibly provide.
And that's what support techs do here.
Yep. So shout out to them and Engine QA. We work with you guys very closely.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
It's a tight-knit family over here.
It really is. It really is. So the basic of this stream, we're going to go over creating landscapes, we're going to go over the sculpting tools, and then we're going to go into materials. The material part is where we might not be able to cover it all because it starts to get a little bit more complex, and there's things in there that you need to make sure you understand before moving ahead and starting to do all the fun material blending and all that stuff. But just to start, I'm actually going to pull this over. I use this our Unreal Engine documentation page every single day, all the time, and it's great for a lot of reasons. However, so let's say you don't know anything about landscapes. All right, landscapes, you can just type that in. I know exactly where we're going to go. So it has a filter here. I'm going to go to documentation, and I know what it's called, so I'm going to go straight to a technical guide.
Yep.
Now, this technical guide, I've actually pulled out into my own little document, and I have highlighted important information, which I'll show you guys. But I just wanted to show you how I get to it. So this is very important. If you understand this page, you'll have a pretty strong knowledge of how landscapes work and how to figure out height map sizes when you're importing height maps, how to improve performance. We'll talk about that in a second once we get into it. But this is just general, really good information. This outlines basically the core fundamentals of landscapes. So I'm actually going to show you guys the little outline I made. I might make this, if that's possible, I'll probably share this with the community.
Oh,
it's the exact same text. It's literally some of the same images, but what I've done is for people who like to skim and read quickly, I've highlighted so you can take some of the more important information, and then the really important stuff I've actually highlighted in orange. So we're just going to get straight into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the technical details, basically straight into landscape. So let's go ahead. If you haven't started, we're going to make a new blank project. We're going to have starter content, but we're not going to add it the way that you're used to. I'm going to show you another way to do it because some people actually don't know of this way to do it. So let's call this landscape tutorial. If that says tutorial. I don't know if I
Yeah, you got it right.
Okay, all right.
So the text is really tiny.
Yeah, I have pretty good eyesight, but
it's actually the resolution of the monitor is very good, and we're not far away from it. A lot of people send me messages like, "Hey, move the monitor closer." Actually, it's almost to the point where you can see it in the camera.
It's almost on camera.
Yeah, but it's actually that the resolution's so good that the text appears very small.
Yeah, we're doing okay.
It's actually that we're too good is the problem.
Yeah,
we're just too good for
that's a problem we quite often have. It's okay.
All right, so here we go. It's up.
All right, so After I do this little process, I'm going to pull the content browser off the screen, just for your viewing pleasure of having more screen space, so you can see things a little better. But here we go. I've added a new, create a new project. Here is the new feature, or a feature that was added not super long ago. If you go to Add New, a lot of people add blueprints, materials. You have your database, which you can search through, assets you can create. However, the very first option right at the top, Add Feature or Content Pack. When you click this, you can add any like template feature, so anything from vehicle advanced to first person to third person. But if you click on this little tab right here, Content Packs, you can actually add the starter content straight to your project. Some of you guys might have already known this. Apologize for redundant information, but you know, this is a great little workaround in case you start to panic like, oh, I didn't add starter content.
Yep.
Don't worry.
You didn't check that checkbox?
Yeah.
Don't fret.
Don't freak out. Okay. All right, cool. So,
to answer a question that came into chat, Bloody Bobby asked, what engine version are we working on today? This is 4.14.3, so we've got this on the latest hotfix of 4.14. So
on that note, 4.15 preview 1, yep, just released today. Download that. We need the community's help to find and report bugs so we can improve the engine. So thank you to everyone who does that.
It's a good note. Good shout out there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I'm trying. This is my first time. I'm a little nervous, you guys, but I'm
doing great.
Thanks. Okay, thanks. Before we get into the creation, I'm going to show you one more quick tool that I use. And this is for, I think this was added back in 4.13, and I don't think it was working right out the gate. But this is for people who like to debug often, and they like to use console commands. So here's one that everyone loves, stat unit graph. I love graphs. So it basically draws a graph of your GPU, your draw, frame, and game time in milliseconds. This is great. However, if you are, let's say you're working in landscapes or you're working with foliage or whatever it may be, and you don't know a console command for it, or you don't have a way of figuring out how to troubleshoot for it, you're just kind of shooting in the dark, go to Help, Console Variables, and what this does is it prints out an HTML file which is searchable.
Yeah, bring that right on over.
I'll bring this over here.
There you go.
When you open that, and this basically has a database of all the console commands, and it's searchable. So if I wanted to do, just for example, foliage, ta-da, like all the foliage console commands. Now, you want to be careful. You don't want to start adding and changing a bunch of config variables if you don't know what they do, which is why it's great they have an explanation next to it. Similarly, and on the same page, so that's great. You can use this for debugging. This is awesome. So keep that in mind. But similarly, let's say...
It's a very neat feature, isn't it?
Yes, very new. Let's say our show... Oh, excuse me. Show flag. What is it? Show flag. Okay, cool. So on the same note, for the most part, when you type in a console command, it has a default value. And if you don't know what that default value is, shout out to Eric Ketchum. He showed me this like my first year working here, and it blew my mind. You can type in a console command, space question mark, pull up the, where are you, developer tools, make sure your output log is open. So right here you can see I typed in showflag.wireframe question mark. It actually gives me a definition of the show flag, and then it gives me the default value. So that's another way to figure out, this is just another debugging trick that I've learned. So here we go, guys. I might kind of freak you out with my tabs here, but just don't freak out. This is to help with the whole view space that we have available. Sorry, accidentally. There we go.
Yeah, so you can really see.
Yeah.
You're going to have to bring the whole thing over.
It's okay. I got this. So the content browser won't be as important. So if I need to show you guys something, I'll pull the content browser over and show it to you. I'm going to undock it from the screen just so you have this space to work with. So, all right, let's get started. We're going to jump right into landscape. So I'm actually going to do this for you. We're going to start with a new level, completely empty. And the reason I'm doing this is because when you create a landscape, I'm going to show you the grid lines and show you what each line represents and what it means. So what is a landscape? landscape is comprised of quads,
That's
which
amazing. You asked that, and then Chat asked that as well. I'm sorry. Go on.
No, it's fine. It's fine. That's
so
awesome.
What is a landscape?
Yeah, what is a
exactly?
landscape? Let's get into it, guys. Sorry, I'm trying to give you a lot of information.
Hey, this is good info. It's great stuff.
So, what is a landscape? It's comprised of quads, which are even squares, which then go into sections, which sections go into components, and components comprise landscapes. So it's number of quads, number of sections in each component, number of components in the landscape, and that's your overall resolution. Now, in this technical guide that we have, I'll show it to you really quickly. Excuse me. I'm going to put my drink. There we go. Excuse me. I'm going to get something to drink.
Got a little table over here if you want.
Oh, cool.
There you
Perfect.
go. It's good for you. So we're prepared.
This is not advertisement. I'm just drinking.
We often strip the labels off.
Okay.
Because we get accused of pandering.
Yeah, I don't. I just
like this drink.
need something to
It tastes
drink.
good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so essentially, landscape. I've given you the lowdown. We're going to look at a single landscape component using the example that they use in the technical guide. So you guys can open that alongside and look at that. I'm not going to go through the whole technical guide because there's a lot of information. So I'm going to do a one-by-one component, a single component. And I want you to pay attention. There's always going to be one more row of vertices than there are quads. And that's because each component has their, so if this was to, here, I'll show you a little bit. Let's do 2x2. So where these,
Here where those line up and make that seam.
yeah, where these line up, these vertices right here are duplicated. So they share vertices, which is why it's an odd number. And there's always, like I said, there's always one more row of vertices than there are rows of quads. And that's how you get your overall resolution of 64 by 64. It's 63 quads, your extra row of vertices, overall resolution is 64 by 64. Now, after we've covered, figuring out the hardest part, and I see this is a pretty big question from a lot of people. They're like, I don't know what size landscape I want to use. I don't know how big my landscape should be. That's sort of trial and error at some point. Figure out the scale of your character, play a level, make a test landscape, put a piece of geometry in there, figure out your scale, get all that down first before you go in and make a landscape. But you can also, even if you do make a landscape and it's not to scale, you can also resample it, which will resample your landscape at your desired resolution. And that's another tool for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys the performance difference between, here we go, stat, unit, graph. Now, I want to make sure I'm going through this correctly here.
Of course. Oh.
Yep, that's perfect. Cool, awesome.
Yep.
So, the reason that these are square is because each landscape, this is very important. This is probably highlighted in orange on that technical guide. The reason they're square is because each landscape component is saved, its height data is saved as a texture file in the content, in the content browser. So that square texture file needs to MIP. So MIP levels deal with LOD transitions. So when your textures begin to MIP, the LOD or level of detail begins to reduce. Now, if you weren't working with a square, let's just say hypothetically you weren't working with a square landscape component and a texture, and the LODs began to change, you would still be rendering that full resolution texture because it has no MIP levels at the furthest distances, which becomes inefficient and a waste of resources. So it's very important to make sure you have you're working with square power of 2 textures and landscape components. It's all done already for you. In the technical guide, they actually give you some more optimized landscape sizes, which helps you figure out where you want to go from there. Now, there's a big thing about components. The more components, generally, the more expensive it is to render. Therefore, you can actually create a landscape that has less components. It's divided into 2x2 subsections. These subsections help with LOD transitions. Now, if you have less components, you're generally going to get better performance. So I'm going to show you guys as proof of concept the comparison between an 8 by 8, 1 by 1 section landscape is the exact same resolution as a 4 by 4, 2 by 2 section landscape. Exact same size, same resolution. The 4 by 4 with 2 by 2 sections is going to be more performant because it doesn't have as many components.
Okay. I'm sure that there were people wondering about that when you're making these kind of trade-offs and balances.
Yeah.
But is there an advantage, of course, to the other method? Would that give you more detail?
Yes, a more detail, and especially if you were working if you're working with larger landscapes, typically. Especially once you get into world composition, having more components might be better because you can control those components in regards to more components helps with terrain occlusion. It helps with rendering calculations and things along those lines. So here's an 8 by 8. I believe I got it. So 63 quads in each one of these components. This is a 1 by 1. So I'll show you the difference here in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and create. And what I'm going to do, that's bright. Stat, scene. Actually, let's wait on that for just a second. Sorry.
All right.
What we're going to do is to help you guys out. Some of you guys, when you make a new scene, you might notice when you get close to a surface, the camera and the screen starts to brighten. That's auto exposure. There's a couple ways to disable that. The easiest way is just go into your view modes, all the way down, auto exposure, fixed at log 0. Awesome. We don't have any lights in this scene, so let's fix that. Directional light. Let's go ahead and drag that in there. Awesome. Let's snap to that. Press the F key. And I'm going to add a skylight too, just because that actually helps when I'm sculpting. And you'll see that in a little bit. That helps with, I'm going to set it to movable just for light building purposes. That helps with seeing the shadows on the landscape once you begin sculpting. So now that we've gotten that, I'm going to add a quick, and this will tell you, I'll do it really quickly here. So I'm going to build lighting, and I should get a prompt that says, you're missing a light mass importance volume. That's very important when you're working with landscapes. It helps, basically focuses the lighting in that area in a less technical explanation of it. So it's, yep, there it is. No importance volume found. Awesome. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a quick light mass importance volume for you. And once I do this once, I'll just duplicate it over. Here we go. I think I'm sweating a little bit.
It's okay, man. It's okay.
Is that okay?
Drink a little drink.
Yeah.
You've been going well.
You're
doing
you.
Great.
Thank you.
Chad loves you, man.
Awesome. I don't know who you are, Chad, but I'm sending it right back.
Not Chad. Chat.
Oh, Chad. I was like, who's Chad?
Yeah, man. It's only Chad. Everybody else.
Thanks, Chad. You're the man. All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and build lighting. Cool. So now we can go stat, scene, rendering. Cool. Now what I'm looking at currently is the mesh Drawcalls. This, if I recall, this is the 8 by this is the 8 by 8 1 by 1 section landscape, and as you can see, I'm rendering all of it. And if you look at your mesh Drawcalls, you have a pretty high number here, 118. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys the difference in mesh Drawcalls when I create a landscape of the exact same size, but with different amounts of components and different sections. And this is where you get to, I'm going to pop this out. New landscape. So if you, let's say you already have a landscape in your level, just go to manage. At the very top, you can make a new landscape. It's going to default to world origin. I'm just going to say no, sir, and move that over.
Yep.
Here we go. Apply now. Sure. Let's apply the lighting. So here we go. 4 by 4 and 2 by 2. Ready? Boom. Same exact size. Now here are the this is the 2 by 2 subsection, so 2 by 2. Do you have a question? Is there a question?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, they have 100 questions. We're gonna
Yeah,
go
I'm
at the
sure.
end.
I'm sure it's great. I wish I could answer all.
They
of them.
actually they really think this is interesting. So I guess the questions that are mostly coming up are to show more of the performance stuff like you had up.
Yeah,
they love that. So
yeah,
definitely keep
that's why I
those up.
have this up here for you guys. This guy, and I'll just pop that. I'll pop that up again in a second. But
We said the word question, and they've thrown questions at me at Max. Oh my
that's
gosh.
awesome. Good. I'm glad you guys are engaged. So these are your 2x2 subsections, and I'm actually, now that I don't need, I'm going to go ahead and create. And these lines, don't freak out, don't panic. You just need to build lighting. That's what those lines mean. So some people, I've actually had some answer up questions. I have lines on my landscape. It's okay.
The early days were a lot of my landscape has these boxes.
Yep,
on it.
that's exactly right.
Yep.
Just
And,
build your lighting.
If you see the little red thing in the upper left-hand corner, lighting needs to be
Yes.
rebuilt, which is also the name of a podcast about UE4 run by Valkyria called Lighting Needs to Be Rebuilt. Just going to throw that one out
Yeah,
there.
that was a beautiful segue, Alex.
Yeah, see that? That's called a shout-out. Nice.
Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide. This is landscape, just default. So you're just landscape. And we're going to look at stat scene rendering. So check it out. These are remember, the last one was I think it was 140 it hit, 140 something, mesh draw calls. It's at 90. This is the exact same size landscape, just divided into 2x2 subsections, and it shares the same overall resolution. So this is already a good way to help with performance, is to try and divide your landscape up a little bit better. It helps with LOD transitions. Oh, autosave. How I really don't like you sometimes. Okay, cool. So now that you guys have a basic understanding of landscapes and what makes up a landscape, we're going to get into the sculpting. But before I do that, I'm going to get rid of this old one that I'm hiding. Excuse me. Awesome. Cool. So sculpting tools, this is where the fun begins. And before I do that, I'm actually going to, did I add a skylight? Ah, that's what we need. Let's make it pretty, you guys.
Oh yeah, we put in that directional light, but no.
Boom. Yeah,
Woo.
we need a little.
Giving it that sun down at the OK Corral and the glow there. It's nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I added the sky sphere. That's also in the. I think it's starter content and not engine content. Where did my landscape go? Okay, so that's another little trick that if you guys don't know about it, I'm sure many avid users of UE4, you guys might know, the F key. If it's something's really far off in the distance and you can't select it, find the name of it in the outliner, select it in the outliner, press the F key, and it'll focus it in the center of your screen. Another great way, especially when you're working with landscapes, this one's also important. This is a hotkey to set up camera shortcuts. So what I'm going to do is on each corner of these landscapes, I'm going to set up a quick camera shortcut. So I'm going to press Control 1. I'm going to fly around here. Let's increase the camera speed here a little bit. I'm going to fly here. Control 2. And you know what? Let's just do Control 3 to save time. So now, whenever I press 1, 2, or 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it switches back. And this is great for establishing shots. Like if you're done with your scene and you want to set up some shots, it's a great way. You snap to 1 or snap to 3. You can actually do like a create camera here and go from there. But we're not going to get too much further into that. All right, so let's start sculpting. Start with a sculpt brush.
So yeah, you click on the landscape tab first.
Yep. Click on the and there are shortcuts for each of these. It's I think it goes in numerical ascending order too. So shift 1 is geometry. Shift 2 is paint. Shift 3 is your landscape. Shift 4 is foliage. I can't wait to talk about foliage. Okay.
So 2 quick little things before we get too far.
Yeah, go for it.
One person asked, what was the landscape size again? Because they missed that part.
Yeah, that's fine. It's a 4x4, so 4x4 components with 2x2 sections.
All right.
Overall resolution should be 505 by 505, I believe.
And someone else had turned their head and turned back, and your landscape went from green to gray. What did that mean?
I pressed create.
Yes.
Just press the little create button, and it will populate your world with the landscape.
When it was green, that was actually just the preview of it. Now it exists, and it turned gray.
Exactly.
So just wanted to clear those up before we got too far ahead.
Thank you.
And then we'll get to the actual big Q&A.
Yeah, I don't want to leave you guys in the dust. Like I said when we started, I'm trying to make sure I cover as much as I can without going too fast, but there's a lot of material and we only have an hour, so we'll come back to it if I can't reach it. So here we go. So we're going to go straight to the sculpting tool, and the sculpt tool is your base. It's your base brush. Like if anyone works in Photoshop, they have that default brush that they go back to work with everything. That's kind of how I view the sculpting tool. You can kind of do a little bit of everything. What you want to be careful with and what you want to be mindful of is the tool strength. The tool strength is what will drive basically the sculpting per click. So what I'm going to do here, and since this mouse, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to increase the size here. So a single left click will sculpt your landscape. Awesome, cool, right? A single shift, if you hold the shift key and left click, it's the reverse. So it's sort of like additive and subtractive. And those, you can literally, which I have done when I first started working back in UDK days, I literally had a very small knowledge of the tool set, so this is all I had to work with. But this is all I needed. You can really, if you work it like a brush, you can get noise, you can change. And after you smooth it, excuse me, at angles, you don't see those circles that you see from the top-down view. So, the sculpt brush, the sculpt tool is incredibly useful. And within each tool that we're going to go through, you have different fall-offs. You have a linear, spherical, and you have a tip. These are all unique, to how you want to work. And I typically like to stay within the default because it gives me good values, a smooth fall off. But there are some really cool ones. And now when I was going over this review stream last night, I actually, I learned a little bit about landscapes myself. This is a whole learning process. If you go where you can select the sculpting tools, make sure you have sculpt selected, and then you have the, what does that say? Brushes, the actual brushes. Now there's a component brush. This component brush, it selects entire components, and you click, this is cool, and it'll raise an entire component evenly.
When was that implemented? Because
Right?
I don't remember
I
that.
don't remember. I found this, I kid you not, I found this last night. I was like, you know what? Like, I've never used component brush.
The depths of the engine just
Right?
go on, and I just find something new every day, right?
It's great. I did too. But this one's also fun. This is called the pattern brush. This one is really cool.
Oh, so you just take a texture file and it uses the alpha of that.
That's exactly right. Notice how this is a alpha texture. This is just black and white. And what it does is if you use there's a saying, world space. So now if I use world space, it will, no matter how many times I go over it, see now it's offset in if I select a world space
so
and I
one's
painted
based off
these.
of the origin of the button click, but if you use world space, it's based off of the world origin.
Exactly.
Instead.
So I can always. So
it's
you can get
consistent.
some really interesting landscapes. Obviously, you're smoothing on these sides. Like these areas here, you'd want to pay attention to, and maybe use a world aligned texture to hide that stretching. But a lot of that stuff can be smoothed out, which is what we're going to go into next. So we have all of this awesome, fun detail. I don't know what sort of landscape we're making here, but so what I'm going to do, and this is another one of those tools where you really want to be mindful, especially once you've got your basic sculpting done. You want to be mindful of the tool strength, because the tool strength with a smoothing tool can really get rid of some of your fine detail. So, which is why we have a detail smooth option, but we're going to go through the regular one first. So I've got my brush size up. I've got the fall off to a decent, I'm going to set the tool strength to like, I'll show you guys actually what like a 0.5 will do to something that has like this aggressive. Look at that. So quickly, just a single click, 2 clicks, 3 clicks. It's already completely flattened out almost, or chamfered. And it gets more dangerous as you drag. So you got to be careful with the tool strength. But so let's do 0.1. Awesome. So I could go through here and start
giving it that organic.
Yeah, kind of
flow
smooth
look.
out. If it's a little too high and a little too noisy, kind of smooth out areas of it. And awesome, yeah. So the smooth tool, another great one. And these also have a pattern, so you can smooth in a pattern. So it's notice how when I move around a little bit, it starts to smooth and make these little patterns here. It's great. It's awesome. Next tool, the flatten tool. Now this one, before 4.14, which I think I entered the feature request for this.
That's always a good feeling too.
Oh, it's great. As soon as
that was my feature.
Shout out to Jack Porter and everyone who's working on
landscaping team.
the foliage landscape. You guys do a great job.
Yeah, Jack built so much of all of this like single-handed, really.
Such a great.
And then had a little bit of backup here and there.
Yeah. He's been a solo man for a little bit, and he's been doing a great job. So thank you. So what I've done is I've picked a flatten tool. And it's at the largest brush size. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten this entire landscape. I'm just going to return to 0 to show you how good the flatten tool works. And that was at 0.1 strength.
No, they're actually really curious. Are there any hotkeys around brush size, strength, etc.?
Aha, that's a good. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we get those out there.
Yeah, definitely. So the hotkeys that I know of are tied to the same hotkeys in Photoshop. It's your open and close bracket. Now, I don't know about the fall off. That might be, you know what, let's experiment. Nope. Okay, so the open and close bracket will increase or decrease your brush size. You can hold it, or you can click. Per click reduces whatever that value is. I don't do math that quickly in my head. So yeah, and let's say this is a great example. This is where I'm going to pull in. Let's say you have an awesome building structure, right? You've already modeled out your castle or whatever it's going to be, and you want to sculpt around it. You place it in the world, and it needs to be up on a hill, right? And you're trying to do the sculpt tool, and you're sculpting, and it's slowly raising. Don't go that route.
To double check it, what was the hotkeys you said again for this?
The open and close brackets.
Yeah, okay.
The bottom ones.
Not the squiggly brackets.
Not the squiggly ones. The regular
brackets.
Square brackets, yes. So actually, I don't want to use the platform. Let's use the stairs. That's the stairs. Yeah, SM stairs. So if you type in the content browser, make sure you have the content folder selected. Come on, you. I'm actually going to help you guys out here. Turn off real-time thumbnails. Boom. Okay, so stairwell, awesome. Drag it in. F key, I'm going to focus it or not. Let's turn down the camera speed since we're a little bit closer. Okay, so let's pretend this is, and we all like to pretend, let's pretend this is a castle up on a hill. And you haven't modeled the hill yet. Some of the best ways I've learned to flatten and find a height is using the flatten target. And let me reduce this here. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is this is the route before we added this one awesome feature that I'm going to cheat and show you. So
game development is like half cheating.
Oh yeah, this was when I figured this out. I was like, I'm a genius, and then I was humbled by seeing some of Ryan Bruck's stuff, and I was like, okay,
maybe
not.
That guy, I love Ryan Bruck. By the way, Ryan actually is going to be doing a training stream in a few weeks. He's scheduled for one again, so I'm really excited for that.
Oh, that'll be good.
Yeah, that'll be really fun. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'll say it again at the outro, but. So Tim Hobson is going to be coming on next week to talk about some similar stuff, but with lighting. So if you guys think this is cool, Tim will be on to talk about his lighting stuff.
Yeah,
if you know Tim Hobson, you know he knows lighting.
Yeah, he knows his stuff. He knows his lighting stuff. So shout out to him as well.
Yeah.
So what I did was I moved away from the flatten tool. I went to the ramp tool, so it's right underneath the flatten tool. And what I've done is to make a ramp, Control, left click. Actually, let's do this. We've already, once you do your first click, it sets essentially the pivot for your ramp. So I've already established it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just reset. Okay, reset. We got nothing here. So click once. You actually don't need to press Control. And the second click will determine where the ramp ends. Now, we had this moved up, and now it snapped to the ground for me. So
Interesting note. Sam Dieter just pinged me to let me know it's not using the alpha to do the pattern brush. It is using the RGB channels, so you can actually have three different patterns in one texture.
Yeah, you can actually.
That's
yes.
Wow.
You can what they call gray pack textures. You can gray pack into a single texture and pull from individual channels and use that as a brush. So you could get really cool like a dust pattern, and you could actually have that dust pattern as a sculpted landscape as part of a sculpt brush.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really, and I'm much like you. Whoa. Oh, autosave.
Oh no, we didn't turn it off. It's okay. It'll keep us safe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh.
Oh.
It's okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's okay.
We're messing with it actively, so it's just not liking that.
Sorry about that crazy drag over here. I'm just going to reset. Sorry I've had to do this so many times. All right, cool. Now this is the alternate route. So I have this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm not sure why the sprite icon is so large, but I'm just going to keep going. And there you are. Let's go. Okay, so I'm going to just do add ramp. Now I'm going to go back to the flatten tool. So just for sake, let's pretend that I did this accurately, right? And I've added the ramp right up to the corner here, and I'm like, oh gosh, thank God. It meets the ground. Now what next? This is where it comes into play. So wherever your flatten tool, the center icon, this little crosshair, that's what it's called, crosshair, is placed, I'm going to uncheck flatten target, is where it's going to sample from and flatten at that target. So I want it to flatten right here. And as soon as I click, everything encompassed in that brush is going to flatten to that value. So maybe, right? And there we go. So now this whole surface is at that value. Instead of me having to go sculpt up, and do, per click.
Now, if you want to be even sharper, you can make the tool strength all the way to 1.
Yes, you can actually reduce the fall off, do
and
that.
That'll just make like a shear.
Yeah, and a single, yes, exactly. A single click right here.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, we're going reverse because I'm sampling here. Exactly what you were talking about. So here, boom, and it does shear. And you would want to smooth that
90s.
out.
Yeah, it looks a little 90s when you're that sharp. You don't want it to be that sharp.
Cathode ray tube.
Yeah.
Okay, so flatten tool, it's great, but you don't really need that workaround anymore because we added the feature to, you can flatten at a certain height. So flatten target, you set the height here. I'm going to not do the ridiculous tool strength here, and I'm going to give it a little brush fall off. Boom. So now when I click, it's going to go to this height. Boom, boom, boom. So I can make a bunch of little, plateaus if I wanted to. Cool.
And they just build off of each other in precise amounts, too.
Exactly. So flatten tool, super useful, very powerful. And now let's move on to the next tool, erosion. Now these tools I don't really use as much. The erosion, the hydro erosion, the noise, they are useful. I'm going to go ahead and kind of sculpt out a little hill and some stuff here. Let's get a little bit better strength. Wow, it's quiet when I'm not talking.
I'm sorry, man.
No, it's not you. I just realized.
I could start singing and dancing. I could come up with some.
Yeah,
Thanks, Shelly. Shelly's providing us with some
singing.
Thank
you, Shelly.
It's a little hard to hear on our mics, I'm sure. But she's doing a great job. It's Sandstorm, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that Darude? Great. Clint, you have to take that in editing, or else YouTube won't let us put it up.
There you go. There you go.
There, that's looking nice.
Yeah, so we got some hills next to our plateaus, and the erosion tools are exactly that. They kind of simulate as if it was a weathered surface. And you can play around with these. They have their own. I'm not going to go too much into detail because I want to make sure we get to the other stuff. But these erosion tools are great for adding erosion. So I like the hydro erosion. And you do small clicks. And I prefer to do them in places where, hills and valleys kind of meet, or like in crevices. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And they have things like filter width, changes basically the size of the noise and the filter and all types of stuff. So just another useful tool. That's really aggressive. Noise, very similar. Noise, however, is a great way if you, I don't want to say lazy, but if you want a unique and random way of sculpting a large area very quickly, what you can do is you can have the noise tool and select. Just one click. And wow, that actually looks pretty cool. I might stop sculpting and just use the noise tool from now on.
There you go. Done.
Boom,
Landscape,
done. There's your swath of landscape. You're done.
Hey, if you guys want to see a really interesting example of the noise landscape, it's not an Unreal game, but I was playing a Mountain Blade the other day, and I realized whenever you get into a random instance of a fight, it just uses like a basic noise on a landscape, and then that's how they create their battlegrounds. So like sometimes you end up in a hole because the noise is just like, nah, whatever.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful with the noise tool that you
try.
don't accidentally create collision where your player's going to fall in it and get stuck. But the noise tool is like a really good way to just make cheap terrain. Really
That's
fast.
what I mean. That's what I'm getting from this.
Like,
It's
especially if you're like in a game jam and you don't want to sit there and like make everything. First, roll noise over everything.
Speaking of which, in their game jam.
Oh yeah, I should probably throw out a
segue.
shout
Right,
so
might as well.
Global Game Jam is in fact coming out this weekend. I'll mention it again on Thursday's stream, just a shout out. But Global Game Jam, we're going to be sponsoring it, and also there's one here at UNC nearby, and I'm going to be at that one at UNC. So if you're going to be at the University of North Carolina Global Game Jam workshop thing, I'm going to be there. I'll say hey. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to try and make it out. I will do my best. I don't think I'm going to compete, but I will offer some insight where I can, or just be a spectator.
Come on by. It'll be fun. So what's next on the agenda?
So lighting is just finished building. Let's see where we're at. Sculpting tools we got through here. Okay. I'm going to skip over retopologize because it's pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. And actually, when you go over each one of these tools, if you didn't know, we do have some solid tooltips over each of these. And you can press Control-Alt while you're hovered over, and it'll give you a deeper explanation. Retopologize helps with what we were looking at when we were looking at the flatten tool, when it does a really aggressive and those edges are just super sharp and don't look good. You could either use the smooth tool or you could retopologize, and it kind of fixes it up and makes it look natural where those edges are, like the real jaggies.
The jaggies.
Yeah, the jaggies.
Okay, so there's a jargon one for you, where some streams we talk about flappy bits. Jaggies is
a real thing.
I've heard so many times.
It's a real thing.
It's like it's a little jaggy. Get rid of the jaggies. Okay. Yeah, it's just a way of saying it's I guess a little lumpy.
Yeah, I think someone just didn't want to say jagged at one point, and they were like, we're just gonna give it a real name, jaggies.
Yeah,
so
of course.
We're there.
Yeah.
So after retopologize, we do visibility. Now we'll look at visibility in a second once we get into the actual material stuff. We're gonna look at section. That's not the right key.
Okay, I think you left a Hangouts open on one of your one of the tabs because they're apparently hearing it. Yeah,
are they getting pings? I signed off though.
I don't know what to say.
Do I? Oh no, I don't want that.
Oh no.
Oh, lordy.
Nope.
Yeah, nothing can go perfect, right, guys?
Oh well.
Yeah.
We might have to deal with it because can't figure out where it's coming from on our end.
Yeah, I mean.
No, you totally exited out of it.
I know. Y'all saw me.
I
sign out of Hangouts is what I literally
well, never
pressed.
mind. I guess there's nothing we can.
You guys are going crazy. It's all it's the user's fault. It's not me. Yeah, it says sign. It says sign in.
Look.
Oh no.
Get it out of here. You guys are the worst.
Don't do that to me, team.
Hit exit on there.
Okay. Let's exit this.
There you go. You guys, by the way, that was a support crew who came in.
Yeah,
to troll us.
that was my team helping me out. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Tim, Matt, and Rudy. I saw that.
That was good. That was good. There we go. The cat.
Well, I guess they proved that it was us.
Yeah. Okay. So that was my mistake.
All right. Cool. So we solved that.
All right.
Back to what we were doing.
All right. So let's move on to the copy and paste tool because I feel like we have like 15 minutes, half an hour.
Oh no, we got 15 minutes, but you can go over a bit if you want. Yeah, you got time, man.
I'm freaking out, man. I'm freaking out.
No, it's okay. It's all good.
That's okay. God, I can't really even see. There we go. Okay, so let's pretend that you have a piece of landscape here. Let's not even pretend.
You actually have one.
Let's make it happen. Yeah, let's.
There you go.
I have a section of landscape that I really like that you worked on hard and it's awesome, whatnot. Go to the copy and paste tool, and what it'll do is it'll give you a little range, a little box where you can select pieces of landscape. So I can go Control C. What I want to do is copy data to Gizmo, this first one. Boom. Now it's populated some of this data. Now all I can, is that okay that I say boom? Does that scare people?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
You're all good.
So I've copied the data. Now Control V, if I can Control V, it'll actually paste that exact same shape right next to it. However, it's not as aggressive, and the tool strength isn't that strong. So let's do this. And I think, I'm pretty sure you can, let's find out. You can use the Control C, Control V. So you don't even have to Control C. Yep. And let's move it over. Control V. Boom. Cool. Copied. So I think, let's do this. I think it copied this section over here. I think we copied a wrong section.
Yeah, you probably want to get something with a lot of detail in it.
Yeah. And you also want...
You want it to be like tall enough to capture everything.
Yeah, exactly. Gizmo. Height map. It's so it's so hard to see some of this. Okay, there we go.
There.
Hey.
The scale.
Hey, it's the scale button. All right. Let's do copy. There we go. Thank you, Alex. Sometimes it's not always the most obvious answer. Boom. Cool. Now we've got it copied over. Now you can smooth out these sections as you see fit.
You're like Emerald Agassi over here with landscapes. Like boom. Bam,
yeah,
bam. There's a mountain. Bam,
I had a friend back in high school who, whenever he proved a point, he would always say boom, and some reason it just stuck with me. I don't think it's a good habit, but it works in this case, so I'm just going to go with it.
It's punchier answers now.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So now what I'm going to do, we moved on to the mirror tool. So anything, basically this is giving you where it's going to reflect this little arrow here, and it will be reflecting this side right here. So I'm going to go apply, and there we go.
Cool. So that's the reflection.
Exactly.
Now, can you rotate any of these?
Yes, it actually has its own. You don't want to rotate it in the. I actually don't even think that transform
Yeah, I don't think that
exists.
the transform exists for it. But yeah.
But you have your rotation on axis, so now I can go. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now I have this
Y to Y, X to
exactly.
Y, X to X.
You have all these options to. So you might want to mess around with that as well. So those are the general sculpting tools. As you can see, there's a lot of them. You can, you know, there are a couple different processes of creating landscapes. People, which we'll touch on a different stream, world composition, tiled landscapes, all that stuff where they want to work in different approaches by importing in that method. But you can actually, as long as you pay attention, you can create a very detailed and high-quality landscape using just these tools. So, and it's a lot of fun. You get to learn, you know, you learn how your eye works, where to pull detail. You know, a lot of really good things come out of just, you know, the grunt work of it.
Cool. Yeah, and also it's very satisfying to do. I think it's more satisfying to do hand painting myself, just to go in and get really, really in depth with it, because yeah, it's like the fruit of your efforts and all that. Exactly. But then again, like, what was it? And we might have to bring like Adam Davis on for one I was telling you about, because he does this world machine and he'll just like crank one out, and it looks really cool.
Yeah,
polished,
it saves.
Nice looking
yeah,
thing. There you go. It looks way better than your thing you worked on. Yeah.
Yeah. The world composition route uses the weight maps, and we're about to get into that. We're just FYI, we're moving into materials now. We've gone over the sculpting, the basics of landscapes. Now we're going to go into the material part. This is where the magic happens, as some would say. So what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to share this with you guys, so you can follow along for those of you who are watching later. I'm not going to do this in a step-by-step basis because it's going to take too long. I have a pre-made material that I've already created, and I'll share it with you guys. And this is a little trick. You can copy any material. For the most part, I say any material, but you know, for the most part, any shader material into a notepad text file, copy it, and then you can paste it into an empty material, and it will actually populate the nodes. And as long as you have the texture files it's referencing and everything necessary, it will actually you just have to plug in your inputs to the respective inputs. I remember you saying the plugin. You like to steer away from people saying just plug it into here. Plug it into there. I'll tell you guys, put it into the roughness channel.
That's exactly where you can go. Yeah, we have so many streams where it's like we're doing the captions on them later or something, or tutorials, and it's like, well, if they keep saying put this in the node and just the node, and it gets really complicated for reading.
Yeah, it does. It's hard to follow. So I'll make sure we steer away from that. So what we're going to go through is we're going to look at, because this is a big one for a lot of people, breaking up tiling. So when you have a single texture that tiles X amount of times across a surface, it's very noticeable, especially older games. Like, look at like much older games like Doom and stuff. Like, they have a lot of tiling textures, and that's fine because they didn't know how to deal with that. They were the masters of Doom. They were doing great. We have a lot of other ways to do that.
Get a lot more processing power.
Yes, we have
tools that were made.
Yes, we don't have to fake 3D anymore. We actually have real 3D. I think.
Oh no! Did you lose your?
I think I did.
Oh no! You dropped part here. I got it.
There you go.
You got that?
Yeah.
All right.
Testing 1, 2. Can you still hear me?
It wouldn't be a live stream without like at least one or two things falling.
Something breaking.
Okay. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
All right. So, material_landscape. Get naming conventions down. If you haven't, it's great if you're working on teams. Materials M_, textures T_, static meshes SM_. Try and get those down. It helps everyone. Here we go. So open up your empty material you just made. And what I'm going to do, and this will be for you guys later, I'm going to get rid of this palette so you have a little bit more screen space to work with here. I'm going to reduce that. So let me show you the magic. Control A. Whoops, that's not what we want. Control A, Control C. Here comes the trial and error. Control V. Oh, it's
thinking about it.
It froze.
It's thinking about it. That's how you know it's processing.
Let's see what happens. Maybe. AC. Uh-oh. Did I freeze it? I think I froze the editor.
Oh no!
Dang it!
How big is that material?
It's really not. It's really not that complex. No. Oh, there it is.
Hey. I love that. It's not that complex. This.
Okay, here we go.
There you go. That looks a little better.
Yeah,
see, you pasted it twice.
Yeah, I pasted it twice.
That's
just needed
why
to
it slowed down.
Yeah, just need a little register.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm working really far out. Sorry,
it's
guys.
so simple. I just pasted it a couple times.
Just needs to process like a bunch of textures. So all of this has been pulled from the starter content, and I will step you guys through it. But the first thing I'm going to do is remove this to show you guys how effective this, what they call macro tiling and variation. It helps break up the actual tiling. I only did it on the grass layer. And let's just get into it. I'm not going to plug in any inputs until we understand what they're doing. So let's do the simple ones first. 0 for metallic. That is a long-standing thing with our shader. Just give it a 0 metallic value. Specularity, landscapes, depending on what texture you're using. I like to keep it low. I don't want a really high specular landscape. Roughness, plug that in. These two are parameters because we're going to turn this into an instance so we can change it while in the editor to see the effects. And here's the landscape visibility mask. Now, I'll go back to this in a second, but I'm going to plug this into the opacity mask channel. All right. So when you're creating landscape materials, you usually have an idea of what the landscape will look like, the type of textures that will populate the landscape. In this case, I just grabbed some random ones, and also I wanted to grab a specific one. There's a cobblestone one that's really great that we use for, you're smiling, and that's awesome.
I know, I've been in so many meetings where Chancellor's gonna be like, why do you have that grin on your face? Like, no, there's no reason. I just grin for like
that's
no
great.
reason.
No, it's like I said, it's wonderful.
No.
I'd rather you be grinning than frowning and angry. So
yeah, people are actually asking about how to get a hang of you on Twitter, and we have it up in the lower thirds whenever we pop it back up, but it's at Design Hurley.
Yeah, at Design Hurley. It's pretty straightforward. So now that you have, let's say you've got all your awesome textures together, they're power of 2, so they can MIP and have MIPs, and then work with the LOD system in landscape, so you have performant landscape. what you want to do is you want to create, you right-click, or you can go in your palette, right-click and type layer blend. Actually, what you want to do is landscape layer blend. Landscape layer blend. Now, you'll have this, and you're like, well, that's a dumb node. There's not anything in it. You have to press the plus symbol. It adds an element. Now, there are different types of blending modes. Excuse me. You have weight blend, which is typically used for world composition. You have your alpha blend, which can be used to overlay and blend alpha channels, and it also helps with if you there was an old issue that I haven't seen recently, but sometimes when you start painting height blends, you have too strong values and it actually goes black in certain areas. That's when you'll change one of the layers to an alpha and it'll fix that. You just kind of like rub over it when it's an alpha blend and it fixes it. But we're going to be working strictly with height blends today, and it's because I know a lot of you want to know how to get the awesome detail in between, let's say cobblestone, which I'll show you guys, and like moss or rocks. How does it like grow in between there? So I've already done that, set that up here. I've tried to keep it organized and comment it out. So this is my base. And what I usually do is I'll create all of these first, plug them in to their respective channels, and then I'll duplicate it and just do it for the normals. And then they share a tiling coordinates, UVs. So what I'll do is I'll take what you want to do is take a landscape coordinate. Oh, that's not how you spell coordinate. Which is these right here. And you don't have to do this multiply. This is so I can control the tiling when I instance it. Within these nodes, you can set the mapping scale. So within each one of these that I've already set up, I set it to 1. So it's like 1-to-1 scale, so that when I use this multiplication, it scales, at a 1 rate. So after you've plugged those into your UVs and gotten everything, I'm going to plug these in now. I'm going to put that into base color. This is going to go straight into tessellation, which we'll get into in a second. Yep. I'm going to put this. What is this? This is our displacement, which I don't want to talk about yet.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, sorry.
We're going to get into that in another stream, I guess.
Yeah, no. We'll cover it.
That one's off limits.
We'll cover it.
It's too hot for us right now. All right.
And the normal section goes into normals. Okay. So now that we have everything plugged in, I'm going to apply. I'm going to go to my landscape. And sometimes if you have, let's say you have a lot of materials in your content browser and you can't find them. I use this all the time. Use the Find in Content browser, the magnifying glass. It'll immediately go to it in your content browser. See, it popped it up. I'm going to right-click it, create material instance. Now that I have this, I'm going to keep it selected in the content browser. I'm going to go back to the main viewport, select the landscape, and notice how it's still selected. Just go to the details, and this little left arrow, and now it's popular. It's going to compile shaders. It should be fairly quick. And here's where some people start to panic. Wow, that bloom is strong. Strong with you. Actually,
that's something that Tim Hobson's going to be covering.
Really?
Is how to make your light levels and blooms and whatnot look really nice too. So we'll go over that again.
I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to make sure I don't see it right now because it's kind of messing with my ability to view the. So what I'm going to
do the search and then there you go. Make it really easy.
Yeah. Boom.
Crank that off.
See how much that helped?
All the way gone.
Okay, cool. So don't panic. Your landscape is black. Not a big deal. That's just because you haven't given it, you haven't created the landscape layer info, and you haven't assigned any of these layers to your landscape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Paint. So you can press Shift-3 or just click on the landscape mode. Go to Paint, and you'll notice now that I've applied this material to the landscape, I have these empty, basically material nodes. What I need to do is go to this little plus sign, create new layer info, and remember we're doing height blend, so this is not a weight blended layer. So I'm doing the non-weight blended. Do this for each one of your layers here. Oh, okay.
And quickly reiterate on the difference between those two.
Yes, of course. Weight blend is used mostly for if you have predetermined weights. So let's say you're working in world machine and you want to import a landscape rather, those weights will already be defined within your landscape R16 file, and when you import it and you apply material, those weights will translate over. You have the material set up appropriately for those weights to, let's say you have, you're masking it out and you have red weighted to something. That texture will be masked and applied with wherever that red is in the world. The alpha is similar to the height, but you're not actually blending height information. You're literally just kind of, it almost looks like when you paint, so let's say you painted grass and it was alpha blend and you had another one that was alpha blend. It kind of just, it's a simple transition, not opacity, but I guess alpha amount of that texture. So you're going grass to dirt, it's gonna do a nice like sort of linear gradient fall off, and it's not like height blending in between. So the height blend is where I really, autosave again.
Yeah, every few minutes.
That's great. That's cool. I'm okay with it. I actually did a tutorial when I was at home, and I did something similar to this. And right at the end, when I was like, and now I'm about to autosave, I changed the intervals where it autosaved, and it crashed right before, a minute before the next autosave interval came up.
Why are you going to be doing these things?
I lost my work.
I blame you entirely for that one.
Yeah, I think that was my fault. So if you want to if you want to be able to see your landscape, what you can do is you can right click on any of these layers that you've created, and you can do fill layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the stone. I'm going to fill the layer. Now, now my landscape is populated with a bunch of cobblestones. Wow, that was not what I wanted to do. Let's fly in. There we go. Cool. So I have cobblestones now.
And you can have more than 4 textures, correct?
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yes. We'll get in. We're going to get into that one.
Just popped in. Figured it would be.
No, well, I'll cover that one because that's actually a limitation of the DirectX and SM4, DirectX 10 SM4 shader model, which has been overcome by the DX11 feature that we have, which I'll show you guys in a second. So now that we have this instance, what I'm going to show you guys is I'm going to open up this instance. I'm going to not make it giant. We don't need, actually, we'll keep that open. So now I have all these parameters here. Please let me select this. Where is cobblestone tiling? Cool. So I'm going to set this to 0.1, maybe? No, that's way too. 0.5. Cool. 0.5 seems to look okay. I'm going to drag that off screen so you guys can see. Now, I'm going to tackle that question that you just asked.
All right.
So, I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to paint, and it's a per component limitation. So, you can't have, by default, you can't have more than 4 painted layers per component. And that is a limitation of the, as I said, let's put this down, the DX10 SM4 shader model. And since we have DX11 and a lot of newer consoles, we can actually support up to 128 unique textures, which is a lot more than 13. I believe the old number is 13. So what I'm going to do is, notice when you click and there hasn't been any previously painted information from that layer, it's going to have to populate a little bit. So it'll go gray, and it'll be like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Let's do, I don't know what this was at, like 1500. Okay, that did something.
It changed the size.
Yeah, it did a little bit. Okay, so we got, so far we have the underlying and 3 on top, so we have 4. And what I can do is I can actually, now remember when you did fill layer, this stone layer is gonna be completely there. So if you want to remove it and have another layer basically overpower it, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shift left click, and it gets rid of those cobblestones. Or I can reversely, so it's I love painting because it's all about like an additive subtractive workflow, and you can continue to switch back and forth. So watch what happens as soon as I try and paint this moss on this component here. What should happen, unless I've already fixed it in my landscape, which I want to, yeah, I've already fixed it. So, and I'll show you guys what I fixed.
What'd you do?
Yeah, right?
So what was supposed to be broken and what is not broken?
I will show you. I'm going to select every single one of these. What I'm considering our main texture samples. I'm going to control left click, and there's this setting right here called shared wrap.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one's there too. Now, if I set it back to the default, is from texture asset. Basically, this is where you're re-enabling the limitation of DX10. So if I go back to the map, this component will stay in the world grid material. Rather, it should. Let's test my theory here.
Let the shaders compile there a little. It's going.
Yeah.
It's going.
Hopefully everyone's enjoying it so far.
Oh yeah, I think we're
Okay.
having a good time. We're having a good time. I'm not going to tell you how many people are watching you right now.
Okay, please don't. Please don't. I just prefer
It's
I'm
like 3.
talking
Like
to a camera.
There's
Okay.
no one's here.
Okay,
It's
cool.
just you and me.
It's just
really.
Tim Sweeney. That's
It's
it.
you and me,
Okay.
and Clint is logged into like 3 accounts talking to himself.
Oh, okay.
And then Chad's watching.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, our buddy Chad.
You guys are really nice.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, so here's your limitation. It's not rendering. And I've answered a number of questions on the Answer Hub about this. And that shared sampler, that shared wrap sampler, basically avoids that by allowing, here, let's look at the tooltip. Shared sampler source that does not consume a sampler slot uses wrap addressing and gets filter mode from world texture group. So basically, it's being able to share texture samplers, so you're not occupying a single texture sampler resource, which is amazing. So now that it's going to recompile again, we're just going to ignore that. So here comes the fun part.
Yeah, we don't need to watch shaders compile.
Yeah,
It's all good.
exactly.
What?
I don't know. I have no idea. We're just going to close that. It's gone, right? You saw that it's gone. I don't know how it's
Chrome
working.
entirely. I
think
guess.
it might just be because I'm actually.
No, Leah, log out of yourself. How about
Yeah,
that?
I don't think I need it. Oh, I won't get to that. I just want.
I'll just ask you the questions out here. Exit out of that. It's all safe.
Yeah, let's just get out.
There
of
you
here.
go.
Thank you.
Now, if anyone hears anything else, you know what? Hey, exit out of that last one just in case.
I think all of these.
Just all of them. All of them.
Close.
Because and the other one. See, there's another one. See
That's
it?
you. That's your
Get
face.
rid of it. Get rid of it.
Okay.
All of them.
All right. That's your.
All of
okay.
them. All right.
All right.
There. All right.
Thank you, Google.
There you go.
All right. So.
We murdered it. It's all dead.
Okay, now we're going to get into the blending. So what I have done, and we're going to get a little technical, but not too much. So what I've done is this cobblestone texture right here actually has a, in the starter content, has a T cobblestone pebble _ M. And that's used, I think the M represents mask, but what I'm using it for is for the height information to create displacement. And this displacement is going to add to the effect that the rocks are kind of coming up. And there is a major difference. I can't iterate this enough. There's a major difference between world position offset and world displacement.
Yeah.
And world position offset is essentially going to push the original vertices of your landscape. And that is different than world displacement, which actually uses the tessellated vertices to push or pull, based on whatever you're doing, the vertices in a direction, based on the vertex normal world space. So I know that to some of you that might be confusing, but I'll step you through it right here. So I'm sharing the same UVs as I am for the cobblestone. And what I'm doing is, as it stands now, I'll open it up. This is a decent height map file. This is good. This would be good for like parallax occlusion mapping and other things like that. But I don't have enough contrast here. In other words, where I want to paint, when I'm painting, it's going to go 0 to 1. And I need to define that 0 area where I paint. 0 in this context is black. So all these black areas are going to be what's painted on first. However, there's not that much black here. It's sort of gray.
Yeah,
it's a
pretty light
little
gray.
washed out, right?
Yeah.
So what I've done,
Lack of definition there.
exactly, what I've done is I've multiplied it, and I'm going to right click and preview this. So I've multiplied it, and then I do a contrast, what I call contrast. And now I have darker values in those grooves.
So you ran it through a power?
Yeah, power is essentially increasing contrast. So I like to look at multiply as brightness and power as contrast.
I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at. I mean, multiply is just, the combination of the two versus,
Yeah, so a little trick. And now that we have that height map, I fed it into my layer and height stone. Here's where you enable displacement and tessellation. So you go to, there is a bug in the engine right now, and I will tell you guys that it will break your displacement. The crack-free, let me see, there it is, tessellation. We're going to do choose flat tessellation. If I check crack-free displacement, it actually flattens all of your displacement, and that's known, it's reported. Please remain patient while our engineers fix it. Here we go. So now that I've got that plugged in, I have my tessellation parameter. I'm going to go ahead and change this to masked to show you guys the visibility mask too. And that's plugged into impasse. Okay, cool. Let's do the fun stuff.
This wasn't the fun stuff?
I mean, it's all fun, but this is like,
me. I'm enjoying it.
This is like the bread and butter of like blending layers. And I specifically chose the, let me get the instance up here. It's right there. And I specifically chose this cobblestone texture because it is so good for not only displacement, but the actual painting in between the layers. So what I'm going to do, now as you can see, as I move this displacement value up, I'm getting some really great, but here's those cracks you see. That's just because I'm actually close to the camera. Most of the cracks when you use displacement are at the component seams when you start to displace, and they kind of separate a little bit. That setting helps with that. So let's make sure this is, let's go to 30, just even it out. Save. I'm going to get this out of y'all's face. And here we go. So go back to landscape, paint. I'm going to select I think the moss. The moss does the best job because it's a little bit smaller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click,
let it blend itself in.
Yeah, start blending, and I'm actually going to do the reverse. Let's do 0.1. Yeah, it's cool, right? It starts to really, I need a smaller brush.
It's like a whole new texture
400.
being made.
Exactly. And now the cool thing is, remember I was talking about the additive subtractive method. I can do I'll do tiny clicks. Here, let's get close. So real tiny clicks at a lower tool strength, and it starts to fill in those cracks. Now what you can do is go back to the stone. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just paint a little bit here and show you guys the variation of just, so it's all pretty even right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the stone and unpaint it by shift clicking, and it'll bring out the grass more. So you can really start to get like variation just with single blending of two textures. You can get some really unique results. So I can go in here and repaint the stone if I want, which will bring it back out. And if you notice, you still see the stone, but it really looks like that moss is like tied in there. So let's see if I can't get this landscape to, I'm surprised it hasn't been doing it yet, but I can make it
do something funny.
I can make it do something funny. Yeah, okay. Here we go.
All right, and then we'll show you how to undo the funny.
Yeah, so.
Oh boy. Yeah, just.
I wonder.
Cranking up that displacement a lot.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
There it went. There it is. There's a seam.
Yeah, I'm not looking for the seam is the crack. This is where you would have the crack-free displacement.
But yeah.
I'm really surprised it's not doing it. It's great. So anyone who's seeing flickering in their landscape, it's more than likely due to you're using displacement and it's pushing the vertices outside of the bounds of each component. Now, every single landscape component has its own bounds. Now, if you see flickering when you're using displacement, what you can do is there's an option that was added back in 4.13, I think. where you can adjust the negative, which obviously is down, and the positive Z bounds, so along the Z axis. And what this will do is this will account for your displacement and increase the bound size so it stops flickering. What I'm going to do, just for fun, is I'm going to set this to 15. Let's just pretend it was flickering. And now it's fixed. Awesome, great. However, if it's not fixed and you're trying to kind of visualize how the bounds work, what you can do is go to Show, and I learned this not super long ago too. Show Advanced and Bounds. Now whatever you click on, whatever is selected, will show the bounds of that object. So as you can see, every single landscape component has a bounds to it. So this is how you would visualize how to account for the displacement. So if I put this back down to 0, those blue lines should kind of disappear in the landscape. 0, is that a 0? Yeah, okay. So it's not doing as much just because 15 isn't a huge value, but it did disappear a little bit. Now if I increase this to 100, there you go. See how those came up a little bit? So yeah, this is how you visualize the bounds. Wow, you know what? I think aside from that, I think that's the gist of it. I think I did the blending and we ended at 315. I showed you guys the limitation of the DX10 shader and how to work around that. Your basic blending, I think the most important, that's the one real quick thing, and it takes 2 seconds.
All right, because we got Q&A too.
Yeah, I know, right? So the visibility, now that we plugged in the visibility mask into the opacity, this is for if you want to make a cave. So let's say you have a hill, we'd have a hill right here. And you want to make a cave through the landscape and have meshes line the inside of that cave. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click here with the visibility tool, and it'll basically cull that painted area out of visibility. Boom, there's our hole right there. So then you would line this with some other meshes and build a tunnel down into it or whatever.
Well, forget all this. I just copy and pasted into Q&A.
Is it good?
You just nailed that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that was the landscape.
Yep. So that you're answering questions off air. Actually, a lot of these Q&A questions you probably answer them after.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind repeating myself because I don't even know what I said half the time.
It was just words. They came out really fast.
Oh, that's the one thing I didn't do. Oh, shoot.
What? Oh, goodness.
Okay, so I can do it real quick too.
All right, just show them real quick.
Yeah, real quick, just real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly fill this entire landscape with the grass. I didn't show them how to break up the tiling.
Oh, okay.
That's very important. So I'm going to clear the layer of this. I'm going to fill it with the grass, and I'll show you guys very quickly. Yes, this will be perfect.
What would be perfect? You're getting all mysterious on
I know,
me.
I'm sorry. I talk to myself sometimes. It helps me. So whenever this does populate, there we go, please, or not. I could show you guys a little visualizer while we wait. So there are visualizers for the landscape specifically, and LOD is great. This one's really fun because you actually get to see it's colorized. So as you move away, your purple is going to be your furthest, and as you get closer, I believe your red, your gray is the max. So I wonder if I can fit it all on here now. So you have actually these 3 LOD transitions, and you can change that.
You visualizer settings?
Yep, these are LOD visualizer. So this is what those are your LODs.
Yeah.
As they change.
I gotcha.
And Alt 2. Now watch this. I'm gonna get, we got all types of visualizers up here, don't we? Let's get rid of bounds, or not, bounds. Awesome, I'll turn that one back off. Okay, maybe not. Are we done compiling? Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, let me get this visualizer out of the way, and then this will be the end of it. Okay, cool. So, as you can see, oh my lord.
Don't fly into it.
Tiling.
There you go.
Yeah,
it's everything.
It's all of the tiling.
This is all of it.
Okay. This can really break convincing landscape. So what I'm going to do is I pulled from, and you can pull this from the content examples. I think all the metal textures, like the metal copper, have this variation. So I've copied it These are just essentially grayscale textures scaled to different sizes, overlaid on top of one another, and then added back into the diffuse. And then it gives that look, and it helps break up the tiling. So what I'm going to do, bear with me. This is the last time we have to compile shaders, guys, and that's it. It'll break up the tiling and give you a way you can start scaling out the grass without having to worry about, well, the tiling looks too big now or too small. So, yep, you can already start to see it. Yep, there we go. So now
it's creating patches.
Yeah, it's essentially created patches.
Yeah.
And now if I wanted to capture a little bit more, I'm going to open there's grass. I'm going to set the grass to like 0.2, make it a little bit bigger. And now you can't tell if it's tiling or not. You really, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, and once the shader's done compiling, we'll get rid of those seams.
Yeah, those seams will be gone.
It really just destroys the tiling.
Yeah, now if you look at a top-down, see how all these little patches here?
Wow,
those are.
It looks so dirty. It's like this
right?
old couch that I had in college.
Oh God,
where you just,
don't tell me
spilled
that.
drinks on it and like food, and like after like a year of being in college,
The college couch.
Yeah, it was covered in stains. Like, it was just so messed up. Like the
Cherry
dog would
Coke.
jump on it. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's really really it. I think I've covered everything in the outline. I'm really parched.
Oh no.
I've been talking. I'm out too. I got a little bit.
You got a drink in there. You good. So yeah, let's get you some questions, and then we'll knock these out.
Let's do it.
So, Q&A time. Thank you guys in chat and people on the forums. You all have been asking questions throughout all of this, and so let's see if we can't get to some of them. Let's see here. Is there any way to make the sculpting tools more precise? Because I'm finding I get lots of edges and corners when trying to smooth something out. Is my game too small? That's probably the fall off.
Yeah, that sounds like a fall off. If it's aggressive,
strength.
Yeah, sharp. Remember, the tool strength is where a lot of people kind of ignore. The default is 0.3, I believe. I lower it to 0.1 and do, even if it takes a couple more clicks, it's a lot safer than having a destructive 0.5 brush and going and it's ruined. Yeah. So I would look at what he's saying. Look at your fall off, look at the tool strength, and make sure the brush size. So if you're smoothing something out, where it's encompassing. So let's say I have a change in elevation, like a ramp, and I wanted to smooth that. Make sure that brush size encompasses the top of the ramp as well as the surface, so it smooths the values in between.
That'll solve that. How to make a hole in a landscape, blah, blah, blah.
Got it.
Yep, got him. That was actually one of the early questions, too, and we got a lot of people asking it. What is the difference between fill world and using the max number of components?
Ooh, I actually haven't messed with fill world too much. I would assume the max number of components and fill world, if there is a difference. I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I can safely say I don't. But fill world seems like it's just a shortcut for making a max landscape components. So that's my guesstimation. I could get back to you on that one though.
All right. Just to make sure that everybody knows this, hey, that material that you were just working on, is there any way we can put it up on forums so
definitely.
that we can get a hang of it? Yeah,
definitely.
Well, he'll hand it off to me. I'll throw it up on the forums and all that too, so you guys will have access to it. And so if you're watching this on the YouTube archive, go into the description and then you'll see announce post and the first link there. Go there. In any of our YouTube archive videos, that'll take you over to our forum post about it, and you can see an ongoing forum discussion and ask questions that we can't get to here later, so we can answer them later and not on the stream if we just didn't get to you or you weren't able to make it out. Let's see here. Next question. How can we work on two landscapes side by side without a seam?
Usually that sounds like a world composition thing.
Which we're going to get into.
Yeah, which we will do at some point. It's not easy. If you're doing individual landscapes, like as if you created one, you've sculpted it, and now you created a separate one and you slam them up against each other, they're probably not going to line up unless you have created both simultaneously, put them together, sculpt, and then you could maybe maybe copy the data of the edge. Remember that copy the data tool? You could copy that section over to the other landscape so it would blend a little better. But when it comes to putting two landscapes together, I would almost say use world composition, because it's able to stream out sections, large sections. It's meant for large landscapes. So I would say look at that.
Yeah, finding a nice way to make sure that the seams, like all the height matches up perfectly, and then
It's not always easy. It is a trick, but at the same time, you can. A lot of games, I'm sure, think of like Witcher or Skyrim or games that have a lot of large landscapes. They probably hide where those seams are intelligently by using meshes, or they put meshes, or they put a spline across it, or use bushes or some other form of mesh to hide those seams.
Yeah, making sure that the edges are always at a certain shape. This just come down to a lot of heavy design decisions.
Exactly.
So, which actually brings us into when making open world games, how do you tackle landscape? Can you dynamically load part of a landscape?
Yes, that is world composition in a nutshell. Is for open world. It actually, based on distance, it will unload or load a landscape or component or whatever it is you would like to load and unload. Culling.
All right, cool.
Next.
Can we always have these profiles on for every stream? Okay, yeah. So they elect all of the actual
the
profiles for like
stat unit stuff.
Unit and all
okay,
that stuff
yeah.
too.
I tried to keep that up there so you guys could see it.
I'll make sure that when we have Hobson on, I know he's gonna want to have all that up too.
Yeah.
And
we'll try
to be better about making sure those go up on the screen. Handcore asks, can you show tricks for resampling or converting an already created landscape? And actually, this is a good one. A lot of people are asking, I already have a great big complex landscape. How do I convert it into a different section?
That is a good, and that's actually something we didn't touch. Out of all there's so much, as you guys could tell. There's so much.
We are going to do follow-up streams, and while we were planning this, we're like, oh, there's no way.
Yeah,
there's no way we're going to fit this.
I was like, wait a second, I can't talk about that in an hour.
Yeah,
So. There is a tool. There's a resample tool, and it's in it's in the manage. So you click on the landscape. If you go to manage, selection, what you can do is change component size. You can change the component size and apply, or let me see here, sculpt. I think it's under. Let's see, add selection, new landscape, resample. Visibility, compost, selection. There is a resample tool, and it allows you to. This is essentially it right here. Change your component size, etc., and so forth. So, and we will get into that. That's a good question, and that's something I didn't get to touch today. So.
All right. Let's see here. Next question is. Can you change the height map and thus the actual height during runtime? Could be used to simulate terraforming, etc. Runtime height map changing isn't something that is in this landscape. I know that because we've had Jack Porter come on and answer that question in another stream. Actually, if you ever want to see another, I think we had him on. Goodness, it was like almost a year ago, the last time that we had Jack Porter on to talk about landscape changes and stuff. But there should be a YouTube archive with more details just about very in-depth landscape behind-the-scenes stuff.
Cool. Okay.
Let's see here. I always need to make my tool strength super low, like sub 0.01. Otherwise, the brush is too aggressive. Any reason for that?
0.01 sounds really low. I've never really I've had problems with foliage, like being too strong and dialing that density back, but usually 0.1.
Yeah, under 0.01 sounds like you're working on a really small scale, actually.
Yeah, it sounds, I was going to say, you might be working with too small of numbers, if you will, and when you sculpt even at low, it's too much. I would look at maybe scaling it out. But
too small of numbers, use more numbers.
Yeah.
No, it's probably just a scale of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I normally find myself around 0.1, and I think that at 1 it's supposed to be like a giant jump because
1 is is basically that per click. 1 is going to be that full value, whatever it is that you're painting, that full value. Boom, like the pattern brush.
Yeah.
That single click will do poof, whereas 0.1 you do a single click and it kind of goes up a little bit.
Okay. Now, this is one I definitely want to bring up. Is it possible to change via key binding the brush size? And actually, another question came up was, is there any way to change the key bindings for landscape tools? And actually, I think if we pop this open into
editor preferences.
Yeah, the preferences.
Key bindings.
Yeah, for key bindings.
Look at that. It's like I work here.
It's really great. It's like we pay you to do this or something.
Right? Key bindings.
Whoa.
Okay, we can just.
This is general appearance. You want to go actually under the.
Okay.
There.
Where are we going here?
But unless it's
keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah, there you go. Keyboard shortcuts.
Okay.
And then underneath all of these,
we can
you should be able to find landscape. I don't think you're actually in the search bar.
Oh, we are not. You're right.
It's super tiny.
Yeah. That's actually something new that was added. And yep, here you go. These are all the shortcuts.
It's literally like
you can make your own bindings for each of these tools, the paint, so yes, the short answer, yes.
Yep.
The long answer, have fun remembering all of those key bindings.
Yeah, if you set up your own key bindings, I'm sure you'll memorize it yourself.
Yeah.
They're a completely exposed tool set.
Mm-hmm.
It's really nice.
Yeah, it's great.
Do you Raildex? That was a question from Freezer748, by the way.
Okay.
Raildex
Good
is asking, do you recommend scaling landscape with just the scale widget tool?
I've had people ask that, and I don't recommend it, just because it's at 100 scale. It's at its scale for a reason, and I generally tend not to mess with that sort of stuff. If you want a larger landscape, just make it larger. If you want to make a larger landscape with different samples, just resample it, make it larger in that manner. If you do want to go the route of scaling it up, I would just be very careful with how large you scale it. Scaling something from, if it's the default is 100 by 100, and you scale it up to 200 by 200, that's okay, but don't go to 1,000 scale and expect it to run super great. There's also, when you import, this is a little trick in world composition, when you import a RAR16 file or a height map, it will import with the 100 scale along the z-axis. Now, for the most part, that makes it's really aggressive, really aggressive. So you actually want to dial down the z-scale to what I use is 1/4 of 100, so I go to 25, and it actually kind of smooths out the height changes, and it works really well. So that's the only time I would scale a landscape.
Just to get rid of the z-axis being
Yes,
powerful.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
All right. Hit Pause asks if your computer isn't up for the task and these tools are getting laggy.
Heavy.
Yeah, it's happened sometimes where you're working with a lot of heavy tools in game development. Is there any way to work on a lower resolution landscape and transfer it and up-res it, which is kind of what you were talking about?
Sort of like the resampling, yes. But if you are having problems in the editor with performance despite your computer, you can always go to the engine scalability settings and dial some of that back. Even going to medium, you'll still get some a good visual representation of what you're working on, but you'll really get your performance back. I know because I recently put together a new machine and it's great, but my old machine was really struggling when I would try and work on large landscapes or I was doing heavy foliage, and as soon as I dialed back, and let me show you guys just in case you don't know, for those of you who are unaware of go to settings, engine scalability, and we have this. Let's put that in Epic. And you can dial this, and you actually change the resolution scale, which can also help improve performance. So I would look there before you actually start trying to make a landscape at a smaller resolution than resampling up, because you'll eventually still have to work at that new size.
Yeah, and then you're going to have to basically you have to redo the whole map because you have to re-detail it with more detail.
Exactly,
it's been upscaled. So keep that in mind. Are there hotkeys for all landscaping? Yes. So knock that one out of the park a second ago. We got a couple feature requests, guys. I'll have to pass a couple of these along.
That's fine.
Can you make a material that uses different textures depending on the height of my landscape? And so that is world composition and weight blending. That's when you have your defined weights. Like you export it out of world composition, you have your textures, and they each one of your textures, or your layers rather, have weights applied to them. Now you can set to, and you can use world aligned textures where you have at a certain elevation, this is when this texture starts to blend in. So short answer again, yes. Is it easy? Not really. Is it awesome? Yes. All right. Magnus Rex _mode just got in the chat and asked, I just got here. Did you guys go over how to get rid of the black squares? So yes, we covered that one a little bit before. I'll let him just reiterate real quick.
So I'm kind of wondering, is he talking about the tiny black squares when you paint too much, or are you talking about the black the entire component? Okay. Yeah. Whenever you make a new landscape, unless you have a material already applied upon creation process, that layer, layer information needs to be created and applied. So what you can do is, if you're watching the screen, Magnus was his name? Okay. You right-click any of the layers you've created, and you can do fill layer, which will populate your whole landscape. So if I wanted to fill it with the stone layer, it might need to pile shaders. There we go. And now my base layer is going to have cobblestone underneath. I love the way that looks. It's so cool.
Compiling sheets.
Yeah. So yes, fill layer. That is your best friend.
That's the one that's just going to knock it all out. And at least you won't have to deal with it ever.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see here. A few more questions about how do I up-res or down-res, which we covered. Let's see here. How many different textures per component can you use with the shared wrap option? That's Brain Drain 85 asking.
That is, if you go to, and right where it was announced, this feature, go to our documentation, go to the engine release notes, 4.6, type in shared wrap, and you'll see we now support 128 unique textures.
128.
128.
Okay.
In that material. Yep.
Yeah. We.
I would never use that many.
Yeah, I was going to say
I would never use that many. But in case you're trying to make all of the materials in the world on a single landscape, that's the way you do it.
Cool. All right, we're definitely over time a bit, so I'm just going to ask one more thing here. So in addition to caves, people were asking, how would you make something that overhangs? And I guess that would be through meshing, because this is purely height. It doesn't curve over. It is just heights.
Yeah, I remember I had that question on the forums. A guy asking about stalagmites and stalactites, and that would be cool if it was if this was more of a modeling type of landscape. But it's literally just height information. So what you would do is, if you wanted to do that, is it would just be meshes, like he's saying. So you would, visibility mask hole into the cave, have some stalagmite meshes, etc., so forth.
All right, cool. So I'm going to wrap it up on that. There are a couple more questions coming in, but as y'all know, you can go to forums.unrealengine.com to ask your questions, where we can follow up with you. If you go there under the events section, you should be able to find this particular stream's notes. It should be called exactly as it appears down there, Getting Started with Landscapes. So if you look that up on the forums, you should be able to ask us questions. Andrew here will take a look at it, or I'll poke him with a stick to make sure he follows up with you. And that should be a lot of fun. Thank you all for coming out, and awesome questions.
Thanks,
and
guys.
Awesome chat today.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Wanted to throw out a couple of shout outs here to let you know about some upcoming stuff. Thursday's stream, we're going to have Snake Pass's team on. They're going to talk about working in Unreal Engine 4, and they just told me that they will be opening up the engine to actually show you the blueprints of how they made their game. If you haven't had a chance to look up Snake Pass by Sumo Digital, it's an amazing title, and it has some very amazing platforming mechanics where I've just never seen.
I've never heard of it. Okay.
You have to crawl up stuff using your actual snake body, and it's very awesome. So they're going to be going over how they made that, and also working in Unreal in general. Then next Tuesday, like I mentioned, Tim Hobson, who I believe is in chat, or at the very least watching right now. Hi Tim, thanks for pinging us. He'll be on, and he will be going over lighting troubleshooting, lighting guides, and a mini lighting tutorial. But we want you to give us as much Q&A as possible, because he will be there to just live answer your questions about lighting and the various things that you've come up with. We get a ton of questions about how to resolve things, and also just how-to-dos, and so he'd just like to chat with you. Yeah,
I will say that Tim Hobson, he did a great, when I first started, he and Eric did a great job of, he has a really strong knowledge with light map UVs and all of that associated with the static mesh pipeline and all that. So that will be great to see.
Cool. So those will be the next two planned streams, and then since the preview 1 dropped this week, then next So, sorry, Preview 1 dropped this week. We should be able to get in a nice stream with, we're not going to be able to get Mike this time, because normally I have Mike Fricker come out and talk about it. Unfortunately,
he talks.
He's predisposed, but we're going to get a couple of the other senior developers to come out and talk about 4.15 and what to expect. And also, go grab that preview and break it. I want you guys to just tell me what we can address, and we're really, like, the support guys here are here to hear you out when you're using the preview and you find something that's not working right. So thank you so much for coming out, and we'll see you next time, Thursday, 2 p.m. EST. We'll see you here. Bye.
See you guys.